Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. Thanks so much for joining us. We're very pleased to be able to bring you the double feature that we have coming up next. Both films directed by the man sitting to my right, Jack Garfein. Welcome, Jack.
Hi.
Good to have you here.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Now, Jack has a very interesting history in Hollywood. He's a terrific director with many plays to his credit, and he's earned great respect for these next two films that we're going to show. But they are the only two films Jack has made. We're going to be talking to him about that. We're going to start with the first film Jack made. It's from 1957. It's based on an off-Broadway play he directed called End as a Man. The title of the movie version changed to The Strange One. So, Jack, about this movie, I remember when it came out. It's a terrific movie, but a lot of people didn't see it. Why? Why was that?
What happened was there was no ending to the film, Robert. So we were going to shoot in Florida. I went down to Florida and I saw a train coming in at night. Came from the south. The Jim Crow laws were still on.
Right.
I looked in the train and there were black people sleeping on the aisles, babies with women. And I thought, my God. Of course, it reminded me of my own life, the deportations in Europe. But I looked at that and I thought, well, this is where Jocko should be thrown on this train, on a train like that. So I called the producer, Spiegel. And
Sam Spiegel.
Sam Spiegel. And he said, thrilling. Oh, Jack, what a great idea. My God, wonderful. We'll arrange it. So then I come back to New York and he told Harry Cohen that what we were doing, or Harry Cohen read the ending. Harry Cohen, what? Blacks in a movie? We're not going to have distribution in the South. The blacks have to go. So Sam Spiegel called me and he said, listen, the head of the studio, he doesn't want it. He feels not going to sell. We have to cut the blacks out.
Wow.
I said to him, you're asking an Auschwitz survivor to cut blacks out of a film, Sam? I can't do it. So he arranged for the night when we were shooting the scene to have people watch to make sure there were nobody's around. And he came in a black long limousine and parked outside because the assistant director said to me, can you do it with 2 or 3 blacks? I said, absolutely. I'll hide them in the bushes, Jack. And then when you're ready to shoot, I'm going to put them on the train. We shot the scene. He wanted me to reshoot it. I wouldn't do it. As a consequence, my contract was canceled at Columbia.
So you're fighting the system.
And so, how could I live if I had done that, you know? So
were you pleased with what did end up on the screen?
I was thrilled with the performances because in a sense, you know, when I started this project, I was 22 years old in the actor's studio, you know, and I took all these unknown actors. Ben Gazzara was a telephone operator for the New York Times. Pat Hingle, I was a package boy at the Beacon Hotel. And we would meet, you know, after work, and we would rehearse from 9:30 to about midnight. One night, Robert, New York was not as dangerous then as it was later. We hear footsteps coming. We were on the 7th floor of the Anta building. So we hear footsteps coming up. Jimmy Dean, that was James Dean first in the studio. Jimmy Dean grabbed a chair, got to one side of the door. Pat Hingle grabbed another one, right? Ben was in the back. The door opened, and it's Elia Kazan. And he walked in and he said, what are you guys doing here? And I introduced myself. I'm a director. That's how we first met. James Dean, Ben Gazzara. He said, I was walking down Broadway. I saw the lights up on the 7th floor. I wondered what was going on. I said, we're working on a project. We all have part-time jobs, but we're doing that at night. Kazan said, all I can tell you is you guys walk up 7 flights. After you have a part-time job, all of you will make a major contribution to films of the theater.
So James Dean was in the cast of the off-Broadway show?
James Dean. There was
and didn't Spiegel kind of want James Dean for the film?
At one point, when the film came up, Jimmy Dean, who was very close to me as well, he called Spiegel. And he said, I know Jack is not going to want to go along with this, but I want to tell you something. I'm as good, if not better, for the part, you know. So Spiegel said, what's the matter with you? I said, wait a minute. I worked with Gazzara.
What's the matter with you for not jumping and taking James Dean?
Yeah, of course.
Right?
I said, listen, I worked on this with this actor for all these months, and he's giving an astounding, Kenneth Tynan, the critic, he said, it was the greatest anti-hero created since World War II. And so I said, no. And by the way, Ben didn't know the story until a couple of years ago,
Well, let's look at the film, Jack.
Okay, sure.
Here it is from 1957, based on the novel by Calder Willingham and directed by my guest, Jack Garfein. Here's The Strange One. Terrific film. And I'm sitting here now with the man who directed it, Jack Garfein, who's joining me tonight for a double feature of his films. Welcome back, Jack. Jack, why do you think it's been rediscovered now? What is it about this story that people today are connecting with that didn't in 1957?
I think because, human beings are fragile. They're easily taken in by things that happen. For example, I'll give you an example. I was teaching in Berlin just a few years ago, and so on Friday, I had to go to the doctor. I wasn't feeling well. The doctor said to me, Mr. Garfein, you're my last patient. I'll drive you home instead of taking a taxi. So I get in the taxi, and he said, I'm sorry, but your German is not the kind of German you learn in school. And I said, well, I didn't want to depress him about my story. So I said, well, my family spoke German. But he obviously sensed something. And he said to me, Mr. Garfein, can I share something with you? I said, yes. He said, when my son was 14 years old, he came home and he said to me, how could you raise your hand and say Heil Hitler? Mr. Garfein, I didn't know. I had no answer. I don't know what did it. I have no idea. It shows you the fragility of human beings. They can be taken in. Jocko has a certain presence and a charm, and he manages to get them to follow and do all that, and the fact that he uses that, and if you in any weak state, if you're in a school or in an atmosphere where there are doubts about that, you can easily affect people,
Now, it's several years before you made your second film.
Yeah.
We're going to see that film next. And but we also have to point out you haven't been idle. You're a teacher. Yeah. You write plays. You recently had a play open in Paris.
Yes, right.
And
right.
so you've been very active.
Yes,
But
and I'm also talking to Columbia. I may be teaching at Columbia
Great.
and have my own studio, but I feel this is my home.
well, you're valuable to us. So
Thank you.
we
Robert.
want to have you
That's
home.
very nice.
But you don't go away. Jack and I are going to be back to discuss the next film he directed, a 1961 drama starring Carol Baker, Ralph Meeker, and Mildred Dunnick, with a screenplay written by Jack Garfein as well. Hi, I'm Robert Osborne, back with my special guest, writer and director Jack Garfein. Welcome, Jack.
Well, thank you. I'm honored.
Well, we're
to be
happy to
here.
have you here. Now, our next film is one that Jack directed called Something Wild. He made it in 1961. It stars Carol Baker and Ralph Meeker. Now, this again is another film that you directed that was, I remember, a great impact at the time. Wonderful movie, but it didn't do a lot of business. And now it's the second film you directed and the last film you directed.
Yeah.
Was that experience with The Strange One, did that kind of make your name not so acceptable in the Hollywood group?
That's
Because they
so.
all kind of stick together, right?
Yeah. At first, I went to MGM, and of course, MGM wanted to conventionalize the story,
Right.
where the girl goes to a priest, and the priest straightens her out, and then she goes and marries a guy.
But
and I
this
would-
is a story about a rape and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a lot of things that weren't talked about a
Yeah,
lot on film at that time.
Exactly. So I went to United Artists, and they gave me a budget of 500,000, which is very, very low for even in those days,
Right.
And I said, okay. So I literally gave up my salary in order to do the film. I didn't quite know, Robert, why I was doing the film. I just was impelled to do it. I didn't really see it, understand it in terms. I knew I fought for it and wouldn't compromise, in doing it. When United Artists saw the finished film, they felt that audiences were not interested in it, and they threw it away practically. Or they started. They opened it in a special theater in New York, and when it didn't do any business, they saw. In Europe, the British, my God, they really saw the movie, and Sweden compared me to Bergman in terms of the film, So the question was always, what happened? And because also as a director, you feel if something doesn't work, even though there are people, as you said, feel it's great, it's wonderful, you say, oh yeah, well, these are intellectuals, they're particularly sensitive, but I don't have the public that's really responding. And I thought to myself, my God, as a director, something I didn't work. Like there should have been laughs in the scene where he feeds her for the first time. There were no laughs sometimes when I saw the movie. It took almost a half a century for me to suddenly realize what the film was touching in my own life. The Film Forum gave me a tribute, and the critic Foster Hirsch introduced the film, the breakfast scene came up and the audience laughed. At the end, people went out like this. There was no applause for a few minutes. Then they applauded and they went out like that. I was walking down the street. Foster was behind me. Well, Jack, how does it feel after 50 years for the audience to see your movie? I turned around and I said, okay, Foster, tell me, what is it? What happened? What happened, Jack? 9/11 is what happened, People are able to grab. So that I realized that it wasn't the money. It was too much after the war for me to go and talk about it. What Foster said, that somehow something happened in America, confronted with that directly, which I didn't even realize, to the point where I had to run to an analyst because I was in a state of, you can imagine, my family I'm the only survivor of my immediate family. I run to an analyst, and the analyst said to me, well, Jack, artists create out of the subconscious, which of course is exactly what I believe in. And you did that, you fought for it, even though you didn't understand it, but others did, like in Europe. And a funny story, Otto Preminger, when he saw the movie, called me up and said, Jack, I just saw your movie, Something Wild. Yes? Well, Jack, you should have shot it in a foreign language with English subtitles.
Well, let's see the film.
Okay.
Here it is. With the cast, it also includes Gene Stapleton, Martin Koslick, and Doris Roberts. And I have to say that you were directing your wife, Carol Baker.
Yes, and we were married at the time.
Yes, indeed. Yes. She gives a wonderful performance. Yeah. Yes, indeed. From 1961, Something Wild. Powerful film. And I'm here with the man who directed it for us, Jack Garfein, who's been with us tonight to help me introduce a double feature of his films. Welcome back, Jack. Yeah. You have a story about Aaron Copland in this movie.
So, first, I tried to get Shostakovich to do the music. It was the communist regime at the time. They wouldn't even let me get through to him. Then I went to Leonard Bernstein. And Leonard Bernstein didn't even want to read the script. He said he was busy, he couldn't do it. So then I went to Aaron Copland, and I told him that I had gone to Shostakovich. Aaron said, Jack, let me see a rough cut of the film, and then I'll decide. So when I showed him the rough cut of the film. He looked at it, he said, I'll do it. So now, after the film opened, it's his 80th birthday. The mayor of New York invites him and says, Mr. Copeland, the city of New York would like to give you a present for your 80th birthday. And they expected him to ask for a chorus with a big orchestra. Aaron said, I want Garfein's film shown. Now, they never even heard of it. Right? Set up a screening at the Metropolitan Museum. The governor, I don't think it was Rockefeller, I'm not sure who it was looking up at the ceiling. The senator was looking at the floor. After the movie was over, as I'm leaving, Aaron saw that I was disappointed, and he took my arm and he said, Jack, as far as this movie is concerned, Jack, just live long enough. So I tried to do that, Robert.
And you have. And now you're seeing the credit it's being given, and well-deserved. It's been nice having you here.
Oh, I lovely meeting you, Robert. I've been an admirer.
Love to bring this film, these two films, to people that don't know them and haven't seen them because they're such good movies. And it's nice to hear about your life. You've had such a tragic life, but also a fulfilling life. So it's just a great pleasure, Jack. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me, Robert.
You're part of the TCM family now.
Oh, okay, thanks a lot.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And don't you go anywhere. Jack Garfein is saying goodbye, but next we have a silent Sunday night feature, a film from 1913.